All right. I was born Beverly May Hazelgrove in 1958 in Kingaroy. I was premature, and my mother had already decided before I was born that she wasn't going to keep me. So I was sent straight away to the Royal Brisbane. I don't know how I got there, but she stayed in Kingaroy and I went to the Royal Brisbane. I had bronchitis, I was very sick, and so it took 3 months before I was well enough to be adopted. So that was a long, long time. And you know, you talk about rejection issues and things like that because I had no nurturing for that time and things like that. So rejection's been a very big issue in my life for many years, but I've had prayer for it and I'm 95% okay.
One of the hardest things to break free of.
So my new parents, I'm so grateful to God, were Christians. They changed my name to Carey after William Carey, the first missionary to India. And a couple of years later, they adopted a boy, no relation to me, but he became my brother, and they named him Wesley after John Wesley. So that became our family. I was very close to Wesley until he got married. Unfortunately, that changed a lot of things with us. But I'll just keep an eye on this so I keep it right. In 73, we had a visiting preacher at church called Winky Pratney. He came from New Zealand, I think. I'm not sure. New Zealand or America, I can't remember. Anyway, at the end of his message, he gave an altar call for those who wanted to become missionaries. And I can't, it's hard for me to describe the feeling, but the only I can say, it was like there was a spotlight on me and it was such a serious moment. Like I knew if I said yes, that I had to be dead serious. I couldn't say yes and go, nah, it was a joke. It was a really surreal moment. It was incredible. So anyway, I stood and answered that call. I was 15 at the time, and I went after he prayed for everybody. I mean, this was a huge church we're in, probably 2,000 people or more. And when I looked around, there was maybe a handful that had responded. And so then I thought, well, okay, I've got to do something. How am I going to put this into place? And I actually wrote to him. He ran a school, a discipleship school in Sydney, I think it was. And they told me I was too young. So I was a bit disappointed about that. But anyway, so from then on, I knew that call was so strong that nothing would shake it. It was like, that was it. That was my life, and I had to work around that. So I tried to get into, what was it called? Tent making, because a lot, in that stage of my life, everyone I knew that was a missionary was either a teacher, a nurse, or a doctor, or whatever. And so I thought that's what I had to do. So I tried to get into nursing. I was too young. Too immature. So by the time I was old enough, the nursing criteria changed. You had to have science. I hadn't done science. I'd done academics. So that door well and truly closed. So then I thought, okay, I'll be a teacher. Went back to school. I had to start grade 11 because I started young, so I didn't turn 15 until February of 2000 of my grade 11 year. So I had to start grade 11 because I couldn't leave. And then, so then about halfway through that, my dad was running a bookstore at Christian Life Centre, and they needed someone to go and work there to get their license to sell books. And because I was 15, they could pay me $30 a week, and I was offered the job. And I think I was probably halfway through grade 11, and I failed 3 of my 6 subjects. And I was really struggling, and so I prayed about it. I had a boyfriend at school at the time, and he was like, no, don't leave, you're really silly, you shouldn't go. The headmaster loved me. He actually promised me that he'd give me a position as a prefect or something the next year. My boyfriend ended up being school captain. Mm-hmm. But I just felt it was time to go, that it was the right timing, and so I did that for a year. During that time, we used to go to there was one wholesaler in Brisbane. There was no Coorong in those days. You had to buy everything from wholesalers. So there was one in Melbourne, one in Adelaide, one in Brisbane. And they all stocked different books. So Dad and I used to go to the one in Brisbane, in the Valley. And there was this very cute guy there that I kind of thought, I like him. He was a bit of a rebel, and he rode a motorbike, and my father went, you're not having nothing to do with that boy. And so I went, okay. So, but he kept visiting, and then after about a year, I left the bookshop and I went to work for them. I still don't know whether the boss there had a job or not, but I rang him up in tears because I quit my job in anger, and I said, I've got no job, and he went, come and start on Monday. And so I worked for them for nearly 10 years after that. So this young guy, who was obviously Tom, had many, many, many girlfriends in between that time and whenever. And I think I was on just about a month before my 21st birthday. We were out with some friends, and they said, oh, when we get married, we're doing this, this, and this. And Tom said, oh, when we get married, we'll be doing this, this, and this. And I went, hang on a minute, you haven't asked me, what are you talking about when we get married? And so he got down on his knees in front of them and asked me to marry him. And I just cracked up laughing. And he goes, she accepts. And he got up and just kept talking. So on the way home, it was a month before my 21st, and I said to him, I've always wanted to get engaged on my 21st. Can we get engaged on my 21st? He's like, I wasn't serious. Oh. And I went, too bad. We're getting engaged on my 21st. And so we did. We got engaged on my 21st. And he told me that morning, that as he put the ring on my finger, that he was planning on buying me seat covers for my car, not a ring. But But anyway, we got engaged, and 6 months later we got married. Because we'd known each other for so long, we didn't seem to think there was any point in waiting, so we got married pretty quickly. And we were the only two people in that whole, if it was a family business, we were the only two that ever got married to each other out of the business. So our boss was so chuffed, he just thought it was the best thing ever. Because we had a trade fair just after. We actually came back early from our honeymoon to go to the trade fair, and he was running around to all the book suppliers that were there going, oh, these two just got married. This is my invoice clerk. This is my packer. So it was really cool. So and I worked right up until I was 6 weeks off having Amy, our first child. So. And the doctor told me I'd never be able to do that because I was not well. But for some unknown reason, when I'm pregnant, I'm really well. And so I worked full-time till 6 weeks before, and then I worked from home to right up till I had her. So it was a pretty amazing thing. So the thing with Tom was that I'd met his mum and dad. I knew they were missionaries. I knew he'd had a hard time being a missionary kid. And the discussion we should have had before we got married, we never did. But I just believed God said he was the one for me, and I thought, well, God, you're going to have to sort out the mission call, because in my mind, he wasn't going missions, and I wanted to go missions, so I thought, what's going to happen? But he actually had a call in his life as well, and finally, after, I don't know, couple of months of being married, we talked about it. And I found out that he had a missions call as well. So thank God he was watching after me and making it right. So then we tried many, many times to go overseas, as Tom told you, and every time something happened, and it just never happened. And so we sort of tried to do the best as we could as we went along. So then in 82, our daughter Amy was born. She had staph B when she was born, and I didn't even get to hold her. They took her straight off me and told me that I'd be very lucky she'd be alive in the morning. So fortunately we had a huge network of people to pray, and we just got people praying. And she was in intensive care for 7 days, and I was in hospital for 14. And she's never had any problems since. she got through it. She obviously survived. She's 37 now, and she's quite well. So thank God for that. And then when she was a year old, I had to go into hospital for surgery, and I said to them that I thought I was pregnant, and they went, "No, you're just nervous." So they did the surgery. I was on morphine for 4 days, and every time they came in and took my temperature, they'd tell me what it was, and I went, "I'm pregnant." And they go, "No, you're not pregnant." Well, I was pregnant. And I ended up in hospital, back in hospital at 12 weeks. I had a severe hemorrhage. I was in hospital for 5 days. They sent me home. I was the size of a house. And everybody's saying, "You're having twins, you're having twins." And I went, "No." Doctor said there's only one. Then they told me that I think at 26 weeks, I got really sick. Tom took me up to the local doctor. He rang my specialist, and he said, "Oh, she's fine. She's carrying a dead baby." And I said, "What? My baby's kicking. What are you on about?" And they said, "You're having twins. One died when I had the hemorrhage, and you're having a healthy baby." I went, "Okay." So Tom took me home. I got worse and worse and worse, and he didn't want to ring my doctor, and I said, "You're going to have to." So I rang him up, and he said, "Look, I don't understand what's going on, but yeah, if she's that sick, bring her in." So we lived at Caboolture. We had to go to the Royal. We took Amy with us. We were going to drop her off to Mum's, and about halfway down, I said to Tom, "This baby's coming. We're not going to make it." And so he said, "Right, we're not dropping Amy." We went flying down to, I think we got to Chermside, pulled over a police car, got a police escort all the way into the hospital, and Emma was born literally 5 seconds later. They got me out of the car, the bag burst, got me up to the ward, that was it, she was born.
So how many weeks were you?
26. She was alive, but because my doctor wasn't there, the nursing staff just took her off me, didn't give her to me, put her in the crib, and she died. And then they told me that she had died, and then they encouraged me to cuddle her. But because in that day and age, they weren't that big on doing that with parents, when I said no, they took her away. So I never got to hold her, but she was a spitting image of Amy, perfect little child. What the doctor was hoping was that they were not identical, they were paternal, is that right? Yeah. And had that been the case, Emma would have been born normally, but because they were identical, the placenta started dying, and then my body just said, "Okay, we'll go get this baby out." So she died. So it was interesting because they just put her down as a miscarriage, even though she was born alive. And at the time, I was just out of it. I don't remember much about that night at all. And Tom didn't see her either. He couldn't cope with it. But over the years, friends who worked in the hospital system told me, "You should have got a birth and death certificate for her."
Did you have a funeral?
No, they took her away. They got rid of her.
Supposed to have a funeral after 20 weeks.
Yeah, well, they didn't do anything like that. They just took her away and did whatever they do. So anyway, then I had to have a DNC straight after because Louise was still there. So anyway, when they would have turned 21, I get bees in my bonnet sometimes, and I thought, I'm getting something done. When Daniel was born, I put on his thing that he had a sister called Emma. And so I rang up birth, deaths and marriages, and I must have got an angel. This guy went beyond the call of duty. He told me exactly what I had to do, and I now have a birth and death certificate for Emma. But because Louise wasn't born, obviously I couldn't put her on it. But what I've done is I've put Emma Louise on the birth certificate, so they're both there. So yes, that was fun. So then I was told I had to wait 3 months to have another baby, and I fell straight away. And because I was so big, because I hadn't lost the weight, obviously, the doctor said, "Oh, you're having twins again." And I'm like, okay. And I was a bit worried about that because I'd lost the others. But anyway, the Lord just said to me, it's fine, don't worry. And I knew it was going to be a boy. And so I picked out 2 boys' names. And then after a while, they said, no, you're only having 1. So because I really liked the 2 names, and then the second name of the other name, Daniel ended up with 3 names. But
for the rest of his life.
But it's interesting because the name I picked for Daniel was Daniel Thomas, and Tom's Thomas Daniel. And my specialist was Daniel Thomas O'Connor. So he always thought that I named Daniel after him. So he ended up with Daniel Paul Thomas, which is Tom's dad's name. And so he used to always call him his little DPT. He was convinced that I'd named him after him. But so Daniel was born so quickly that he damaged his hip. And the doctors were really concerned that he would never walk properly. And he ran like he's just like his son. They just run non-stop. And he was in little athletics. He broke club records. He ran for districts. He ran for school. He ran for Queensland. He could have run for, if I could have gone to Townsville, he would have run in the Olympics. He was just running everywhere. So he broke club records. And so, again, thank God nothing came bad of that. So yes, that was that kind of thing. So then life still trucked along. In 1995, I was challenged to reach out of my little circle and, just not be insulated with my kids and their school and all that sort of stuff. And so I decided I wanted to learn to do TESOL. So I looked into it and I ended up working volunteering at the Adult Literacy Centre in Caboolture. And so the first night of training, they got us to say why we wanted to do this. And I said that I was planning on being a missionary and I wanted to get my TESOL qualification so I could teach English overseas. And they were really amazed. There was one other girl in this group of 30 that was a Christian. And they were like, wow, they were very encouraging. Anyway, I taught there for, 3 years, something like that. And just after I left to move to Brisbane, they rang me and they said, we've got government approval to give TESOL qualifications now. Do you still want them? I said, yeah, I'm sure. And so they said, okay, because of all the teaching you've done, we'll get you to do 2 assignments and that's it. You've got your quals. So I had to do it from memory and they were so good. I did up the 2 assignments. I sent them to them. No, improve this, and this, send it back, and then, but yeah, I got them. So that was a real miracle because I wouldn't have been able to afford to get them otherwise because it can be quite expensive. So yes, anyway, life went on and Tom had 2 trips to Russia and 1 to Nepal between 2000 and 2004. I couldn't go with him because the kids weren't at the age where I could leave them yet. And so in 2004, I went to Russia with him for 7 weeks. So you'd think that I would be, yeah, let's go, my dreams come to pass. And I was terrified. I was so scared. I thought, I'm going to hold Tom up. I'm sick all the time. I can't keep up with him. What if I, mess up his stuff? I was worried about the plane trip. I was worried about so many things. And I said, God, what's wrong with me? I've been wanting this for so long. What is wrong with me? And he was as clear as anything. He said, you can stay here or you can go. I'm going to bless you either way. And I thought, and so I said, okay, God, I'll take that step of faith. I'll step out and I'll go. So the night before we went, I vomited all night. Got to the airport, got on a plane. The plane started taxiing and I realised I was terrified of flying. So I grabbed Tom's arm and I went, I hung on to him for grim death all the way up. So then we got to Moscow I was vomiting all night again. So in the night, I thought, God, why did I come? This is just stupid. I should have just stayed home. I decided, that's it. First thing tomorrow, I'm on the next plane out of here. So, of course, I couldn't do that. So I got up and I thought, oh, God, I'm here. Let's make the most of this. And so Tom said to me, what do you want to eat? Because when I've been vomiting a lot, there's only certain things I can eat. And I said, all I want is tomato soup. That's all I want. Well, here we are in this strange place. Never been there before. Didn't know where the shops were. Didn't even know where they sold tomato soup. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And I said, yeah, I know. So about 2 hours later, the pastor's wife came in from next door and she said, Carey, come. She couldn't speak any English. So, Carey, you come. And she had this big bowl of stuff and she goes, super. And I went, oh, borscht. This was the only Russian soup I knew. And she said, net, tomat. Oh. And they make everything from scratch. Nothing is bought in a bottle or a tin. So she would have made that the day before we arrived. God knew. And she was horrified, but I ate that soup for the next 4 days. That's all I could keep down. But I was well for the rest of the trip. We went on a 27-hour train trip to another town, and that was terrifying. We were on these little beds in the middle of the aisle, and it was just like freaking me out totally out of my comfort zone. But I never got sick. And it was just amazing trip, the things that we did. And it was that trip that we met Alexei, who we now work with now. And he was such an amazing guy. He would say every night, it is my honour to carry my teacher's bags. And he would carry Tom's computer home to where we were staying. And he looked after us on a couple of the trips that we went on. And it was just amazing connection there. And Tom and I both had a prophecy for him. And a lot of that's starting to come true now. But there was just that instant connection between the three of us. And God's just done amazing stuff with that. So it's been amazing. So then we went to, I had my birthday there, that's right. And I realised it had been 30 years since I'd told the Lord I'd be a missionary. And they actually looked after me so well at that place. They gave me the best birthday ever. So it was awesome. So on the way home, we went to England because Tom's mum and dad and a lot of his family still live in England. And it just happened that I'd been reading a book before we left, and I realised that William Carey was born or lived in Leicester, and Tom's family all lived in Leicester at that stage. And so I got to see where he lived. I saw one of our friends took us and showed us a plaque and, and all that sort of stuff, and the church that is named after him. And so that was an incredible experience. Then we came home and we mentioned that to Taras, the pastor that we were working with over there, that we would really like to do something more than 7 weeks. And he said that he had a dream that he always wanted to use his property in Ukraine, which was about 7 acres, for a Bible school, and would be willing to come and start the Bible school. And so that was a 7-month commitment. So we committed for 2 years that we would go. My dad had dementia at the time, and I was really nervous about leaving him for so long. I didn't know whether he would remember me even when I got back. Amy's reaction to us deciding to go was to get married. So she got married just before we left, and then Dan shared a home with his cousin and somebody else for a while. But the Lord just said to me again, that just trust me and I'll make it all right. So we went over. We ended up having one of the coldest winters they've had for years. That photo, that painting up there is part of the Bible school. Mm-hmm. And we got to minus 27. We were in the oldest house or the original house on the property, and even with the heating on, the warmest we could get it was 10 degrees inside. So I'm a Queensland girl, never seen snow before, so you can imagine it was quite interesting. We had to hand wash all our clothes, and then you would walk down in the snow and hang them out on the line to freeze, and then you'd bring them back in and hang them over the fireplace. And just little stupid things I'd do just because I'm not used to it. Like one time I had the kettle on, we ate with the students, but we had a stove in the house so we could make tea and coffee and that sort of stuff. And so I came in out of the cold one day, I was freezing, and I had my jacket undone, but I put my hand up to hang out some stuff over the stove, and my jacket went in the fire. Just stupid things. Another time we went to the shop, and I was standing in front of the heater, and again I was freezing, and the shop lady came over and pulled me out of the way, and she's going, and they use plastic bags for all their shopping, and they call them packets. And I'd been standing there with my packets, and they were all melting because they were in front of the fire. But just little things, just stupid things. I had no idea because I wasn't used to the cold. But like just to give you an idea, our house was like at the beginning of that path. The college and the room where we eat and all that sort of stuff was down where those other buildings are, and that's where the toilet was as well. Oh. And it was an outhouse.
Oh.
So you'd walk in, and the inside of it was just covered in icicles. And I used to say to Tom, how long can you sit here before you freeze to the seat? You know, like it was just, but it was really nice because it didn't smell because everything was frozen.
There are some pluses.
But, you know, and I used to joke with Tom, you almost had to get dressed because you took everything off when you walked into the house. So you almost had to get dressed 10 minutes before you needed to go because you couldn't run down there because you'd fall over, and you know, if you left it too late you wouldn't get there. So eventually we got a bucket. So we told the students we had our indoor toilet. so we used the bucket to go to the toilet. So that was quite interesting. So we used to go up to the local shop, which is about maybe 1 kilometre away, just to buy soft drink or biscuits or tea, coffee, whatever that the students that we didn't get supplied in the college. And so this day, there were so many different soft drinks. So this day, we'd all go up, and Tom and I take in turns picking 2 or 3 flavours to try. And the lady got used to us because we just go and help ourselves because we couldn't tell her what we wanted. So we'd go behind the counter and just take whatever we wanted. And so this particular day, it was Tom's turn. And he picked up 2 bottles off the floor. We went back, we'd been down with Alex and Viola and talking to them for a bit, and then came back up. You didn't need a fridge in the house because it was so cold, so everything was out. And I grabbed this 1 bottle, opened it up, and went, psh, and didn't think anything of it, drank it out of the bottle like my mother's always told me not to. And as I swallowed it, I realised it was petrol, not soft drink. Oh. Tom was on our bucket. and I'm going, so he finally came out to see what was going on, and he sort of looked at me and he said, well, there's no milk on the farm, because they had no milk until the next morning when they got it from the farmer. And he says, I don't know what to do. So I opened up the other bottle of soft drink, got him to test it, and had a bit out of that just to sort of make my throat feel a bit better. And then so we went to bed. He was not panicking. He just sort of like, oh yeah, you know, being real cool, calm and collected about it. And I was lying on the bed, and I just said, the Lord just dropped the scripture into my head that, you know, you can drink any deadly thing and it won't harm you. And I said, okay, God, you know, that's it, I'm fine. And Tom didn't tell me, but he didn't sleep nearly all night. He just kept watching me to make sure I was all right. So the next day we went down and we told the students and our interpreter. They wouldn't believe me. They said the corner shop doesn't sell petrol in bottles. It's not possible. So I went back up to the house and got the bottle and took it down to them, and they're like, oh my goodness, you know, it's really petrol. So Alex and Tom went back to the shop and told them, because if I'd have complained, the government would have shut her down. She would have been in so much trouble. And I went, no, I don't want to do that. And so they went back up and they told her what had happened. She was horrified. and she still doesn't know where it came from. Had no idea. They think because most of their stuff isn't bought in big trucks, they come in little trucks and things. She thinks that maybe one of the truck drivers had this soft drink bottle and accidentally put it in there or something. She didn't know. But anyway, she asked after me for 7 years after that. Every time, and if I went up to the shop, she'd be, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And she was very nice. But I just thought, oh yeah, okay, the Lord looked after me. But when I got home, I told my doctor about it because I thought it was a pretty cool story. And he said, "Do you realise if one drop had got in your lungs, she would have been dead?" He couldn't believe that I hadn't gone to hospital. And so thank God for that. So then we also, during that time, a lot of families in Russia and Ukraine the grandparents look after the grandchildren because the parents go overseas to work because they can get more pay that way. And so Taras, the pastor we were working with, his twin granddaughters became really, really close to us, and they actually call us mum and dad. And they were born the day, well, their birthday is the day before Daniel, but they're about 6 years younger than him. But it was as if God had given me back my twins in a way, you know, and these girls just adore us. Every time we go over there, it's amazing. They're both married now. One's got 3 kids and the other one's got 2. So they, but yeah, it's such a beautiful relationship. They're always sending me messages on Facebook, "Hello, Mum and Dad." So it's really cool. So then we came home for 4 months, and then we went back for our second lot of Bible school. Dad was getting a lot worse, but he hadn't forgotten me, which was a blessing, and he was still living at home at that stage. And then the trip at the end of the trip before, we'd actually met some friends in Kiev, or some people in Kiev. She was Australian, from Kingaroy, believe it or not, or she was born in Nanango. Actually, her mum and dad, you'd probably know them, Arthur's, Ken and...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, Tanya. So she had married a Ukrainian man, and so we just happened to meet them by a circle of different circumstances, and so they looked after us at the end of the first trip and took us all around Kiev and put us on the plane, and we just became instant friends. It was just such a God thing. And so every trip, they live in Melbourne now, but every trip back, they would pick us up at the airport. We'd stay with them for a few days, and then they'd put us on the bus to where we were going, and then we did the same thing in reverse. And so that year, all these wonderful things happened to me. Because the farm only ate meat as what they killed, so we had pork occasionally, we had rabbits, we had goat occasionally, but because there were so many of them, if you were lucky, you'd get, that much meat. So this particular day, and we should have known, but we were downtown and we came across this, they have a lot of street vendors. And we came across this stall and it had the most beautiful barbecue chicken. And it was about $9 our money. So nobody would have been able to afford to buy it. And we should have realised that. And the college students were quite upset with us when we told them what we'd done. But anyway, we bought this chicken, we took it home, and we had a delightful feast. Boy, did we enjoy it. And then that night, I got sick. The next day, they happened to give us chicken for breakfast or lunch or something, and I'm like, no, I can't face chicken. Anyway, for some reason, I just kept going for 2 weeks. I just didn't feel good, but I was okay. By this time, we'd actually got a wet area at the college so that we could actually have baths at the college and not have to go into town. So once a week, we had a spa, a sauna and a wet bath with a bucket. And so this particular day, we went down and I just about passed out in the sauna. And I said to Tom, I really don't feel too good. And so we went back up. I ended up getting horrendous earache. And so Taras was quite concerned. And he called the doctor in town. And what I didn't realise, it was like a clinic, but every doctor dealt with a certain thing. And so they called this particular doctor in because I was complaining of earache. And so she came in, checked me out, and of course Taris had to tell her that I was his daughter, so they could see me and all that sort of stuff. So she checked me out. She goes, "No, it's definitely not your ears." She said, "You'll have to come back tomorrow and see this gastro doctor." So I went back the next day. I could barely walk. I was so ill, and this place had 5 flights of steps to get up. So by the time I got up to the top of the steps, I was just about crawling. And of course, Tom was teaching in college, so he couldn't go with me. So one of the twins, who at that stage was 14, she went with me and trying to interpret because they couldn't speak any English. So anyway, they decided I was very dehydrated. My urine was nearly as black as Wendy's purse. And so they decided to put me on a drip. Well, over there, they buy everything. If you need to go to the doctor, she gives you a list, you go to the chemist, you buy it. So Lisa had to go downstairs and buy the bottle of drip. She had to buy the needles, she had to buy the line, she had to, the whole thing. If you want a blood test, you sit with your hand over the back of a chair and they do it like that, and they do all the stuff on site. Actually, they sent me off for a scan first because I thought I might have had appendicitis. But no, that came back okay. So then they decided to put the strip on me. Well, it was snowing. And this strip came out of the chemist shop. So here they are shoving it in my arm, and I just started convulsing. It's cold. Because it was so cold. And they were putting all these blankets on me and jumpers, and they got all our jackets, and they, I had this much stuff on me, and I just couldn't handle it. So they gave me the 1 bottle instead of the 2. I had to go back the next day. One of the doctors gave up her room so I could lie on a bed right beside the heater. And I think I went up 5 days in a row and had 2 bottles of drip each day. And Lisa had to come with me, and it was so funny because the doctor would say to her things like, "Oh, how many times does she go to the toilet?" And I, because I had diarrhea, I thought he meant that. So, no, sorry, I thought he meant water-wise. And so I told her how many times I go to the toilet water-wise. And he's like, "Oh, no, that's not good," and gave me all these tablets to stop diarrhea. But fortunately, I recognised the name, and I went, "No, I don't need those." But they just looked after me so well that all the doctors would come in and go, "Okay," "Yeah, okay," And Lisa would have to sit up there with me while I had all this treatment. And then I think I ended up going for nearly 6 weeks up, and before they sort of said I was okay. He was giving me special diets and everything. I lost so much weight. It was really bad. Daniel saw me in England just after that, and he just about cried because I'd lost so much weight. But I got through it, and Tanya, that was the point of Tanya, our friend in Kiev, she rang me every couple of days, and it was just so nice to be able to speak to someone who could speak English well. And so she really comforted me a lot through that time, which was awesome. But yeah, so then just not long after that, what happened? Tom's dad had been diagnosed with leukemia, and we didn't know how long he had to live or anything like that. So we planned to go to him after the 6-7 months of Bible school. And I'll just backtrack just a bit because I forgot one bit here. Taris asked me to preach one day while I was there, and this is just for the college, so it's 10 people.
This was just after I met you.
Oh, was it? You remember that? So he asked me to preach, and the Lord gave me this sermon in my sleep. He gave me the faces of 4 people that were going to come out and get prayed for, and he gave me words of prophecy for each of them. And I said to Tom, "Can I believe this? This is beyond me." And he said, "Yep, we're going to pray and we believe that." And everything happened as I saw it, except one guy didn't come out, and he came up to the house later and said I should have come out. And so I was able to give him his word as well through the interpreter. So that was amazing. And then Taris also asked me to lead worship a couple of times. I'm a very high soprano, and Tom can't sing for peanuts, but he He reckons he can't.
You just shouldn't.
So he, I said to Tom, come on, you're going to have to help me here. I'm a bit nervous. So he came and sang, and remember, we're singing in English. These guys are singing in Russian, and it sounded like a choir. It was amazing. The presence of God was just amazing, and I just keep thinking to myself, I don't like doing stuff like that, but if I'm asked or if God really presses it on me to do something, then I know that it's going to be awesome because it's what He wants me to do, and He'll give me the courage to do it. And it just amazes me that if I just got to take that little tiny step in fear, but if I just say, okay, God, I'll try, and then it's, it's amazing what happens. So anyway, so going back to Tom's dad, we were supposed to leave after 7 months. Then we had minister in Russia, and then we were going to his dad's. And some stuff happened, which I won't go into, but we ended up having to leave the college 6 months, at 6 months instead of 7 months. And we had to cancel the trip to Russia. And the both of us were like, okay, we're both very strong in wanting to, if we commit to something, we want to finish it and do it and be honourable in what we say. But the circumstances were that we had to do what we did. Anyway, we just really felt that God was in control and that there was something going on that we didn't know. So in essence, we ended up arriving in England 2 months before we should have done. What we didn't know was that Dad had actually been given 12 months to live, and the 12 months was up when we should have arrived. So we actually had 2 months with Dad where he opened up to Tom and talked about stuff that he's never talked about. It was just such a healing time for them, and he was well. Just before we left, he was actually put into hospital, and he went downhill pretty quickly, and he died 2 days after we came home. But praise God, he just worked it all out that we were there for him, and it was just a really good time for Tom. So that was good. Then we got, as I said, Tom's dad passed away, but then my dad was also put into a home at the same time, and he lived 11 months. He actually died a week after Tom's dad, but a year later. And he never forgot me till the day he died. So grateful for that. So technically the Bible school ran over the years. So we went 2006, 2007, 2005, 2006, 2007. So Bible school would start again in 2008, and Taris passed away 2 weeks after the college started. And I think Daniel's...
Do you need some water?
Daniel's stuff's getting to my throat.
It is a bit stinky.
Yeah. So, but if we hadn't have given up that 2 years, or 3 years technically, he would never have seen his dream come true of having the Bible school. And I'm so grateful to God that, we saw the opportunity and we went, and we blessed him so much by doing that. So then we had quite a big time before we could go back again, because just life happened, and so it was 2012 before we went back again. And again, every trip, even this next one, I can tell you now, I'm going to be nervous. It's just something about...
What is this?
It's just something about...
Well, it's just nervous going to that country.
Yeah, I think it's
scared.
Particularly as getting older, I'm used to my routine. Your routine's totally out when you're at someone else's house. And if I get sick here, it's okay. I can just be sick and I'm quiet. When you're sick over there, it's embarrassing. But anyway, but I was quite nervous about going. But what made it worse was the day after we booked the ticket, Amy, we it was near my birthday, and I'd gone down to see Amy and Len for my birthday, and as soon as I walked in, I knew she was pregnant. I didn't say anything because I thought she had a few false alarms, and so then later on they gave me my birthday present, and it was to tell me that she was 4 weeks pregnant, but she was due at the beginning of October. We were going to be away till the beginning of October. And I just about broke my heart. I said to Tom, what am I going to do? I don't want to go now. And he goes, no, you got to go. So I was praying about it, and the Lord just said, look, any good thing, just ask me and I'll give it to you. And I said, well, Lord, this is a good thing. I want to be home for my granddaughter. And so anyway, it was about a month after that, Amy told me that the doctors had got the dates wrong and she was actually due at the end of October. So I know, great, so that was good. But then she actually ended up having gallbladder problems, and all sorts of things happened. And so they said they were going to have to bring her on at the beginning of October again. And but anyway, it worked out that Amy had Emily 3 days after we got home, which... It was also a really incredible day because we were actually at state conference and Tom got his credentials that night. So although I was here in Australia, but I wasn't with her when she had it. But yeah, so Tom getting his credentials and Emily being born the same day was just amazing. So then Daniel had given me an iPhone, so I was able to FaceTime the kids all the time. And it was also a significant trip because Alexa and Viola had they were running the Bible college, and again, I won't go into it, it's too complicated, but things had changed over there dramatically, and they needed to get off the property desperately and close the Bible school down. So we actually started Water of Life Ministries from that point, and we helped Alexa find a house and to rent and all that sort of stuff, so we were able to do that for them. So then we went back the next year, and in one town, a new contact, I was asked to share my testimony because Tom was talking on mission. They wanted a mission service, and they asked me if I'd share my testimony. And that night, the night before, the Lord showed me that He had already in the Bible when it talks about name changes, how God uses the name change to show them where the path He wanted them to go on. And He showed me that's what He'd done for me with my name. And that even pre-birth, He planned for me to be a missionary. So I told Tom about it, and he said, yeah, the Lord showed me the same thing. So it was like, wow. So I shared about that, and the pastor told me afterwards that I was a true missionary. Then we went to Russia, that trip as well. 40 hours on the train for 2 days ministry. And it was Alexei's pastor that we were going to, and it was the same churches that we should have gone to when we left early from the Bible school, but God had worked it out that we were going now. And so we went up there, and they told us that they'd had a missionary come years before and said that they would have Australian missionaries come and preach to them. And they thought, where are we going to find Australian missionaries? And we fulfilled the prophecy. So that was amazing. And one of the part of the trip, because it was such a long way, I said to the guys, why don't you witness to it? Because we got a cabin, and they had 4 beds in it, and they always filled the other one. If there's only 3 of you in there, that will change many, many, many times over the rest of the trip. And so I said to them, if someone comes in to the other bed, you guys should witness to them. And so I went to sleep because it was pretty late. A young girl came in, the boys were still awake, and so I ended up talking to her, leading her to the Lord and praying for her health. So that was pretty exciting. So then, again, there was a 3-year gap before we got back again. And this time, Alexei had told us about Pastor Moses, and so we flew to Belarus. and met Alexei in Belarus and met Pastor Moses for the first time. And we needed a lot of miracles to go this time. Tom's work had changed bosses. We needed respite from Mum. We needed, a whole pile of different things. And God just went bang, 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 bang. Everything just fell into place, and it was just amazing. So so that was an amazing time in Belarus. But I said to Tom just before we left, and I don't know why I even said it, but I said to him, if I get sick on this trip, I know God will look after me. And between Belarus and Ukraine, we had 29 meetings. So it was pretty full on. And I picked up the flu about a week into Belarus. And it just wouldn't go away. So by this time we'd gone back down to Ukraine, and we'd all been out for the day, down to the markets and whatever. And we were walking back to Alexei's place. And the boys were, Alexei and Viola and Tom were in front of me. And because I was struggling, I was a bit behind them. And I don't know how I did it, but I somehow managed to push myself enough to grab Tom's hand. And I said to him, I can't breathe, I can't go on. And he said, you can't stop here, you've got to keep going, we've got to get back to the house.
Yeah, don't die here.
And we're in the middle of the street. And so anyway, he said, I don't remember any more after that, I just remember grabbing his hand, and he said my face just went white like it went his pants, my eyes just staring at him, and he was patting my face and coming, come on, Carey, what's going on? Viola took off down the road to go and find someone to see if they could get him into the hospital. Tom didn't know I was having a heart attack or what was going on. Alexei was, panicking. Some guy in the house near where we were standing, he went and got me some water. And Tom said that, I don't know how long all this took, but he said my eyes didn't roll back in my head, and I just went straight down onto my legs. They just folded up. And I don't know how long it all took, but all I remember is him tapping me on the face, and I'm thinking, go away, just let me sleep, I don't want to wake up. And I opened my eyes, and here I am sitting on the middle of the road, and I'm like, what is going on here? And of course I tried to stand up, and my legs were numb because I'd been on them. And this guy said to Tom, give her the water. Of course it was winter, so the water was like ice, and he's shoving all this water on my face, and then gave me a drink. And then they finally got me up again, and Tom was happy then because she's just fainted. It's okay. so they Alexei then took my hand, and he said to Tom, I know he put his arm through there, and he said to Tom, you walk behind her, because we still had, I don't know, about half a K to go to his house. So we finally got home, and I couldn't even get my shoes off or anything, and Tom helped me get my shoes off, and I went upstairs and collapsed into bed. They wouldn't let me out of bed for 5 days after that. They were running around buying me tablets and shoving all this stuff into me. And of course I wasn't allowed to go to any meetings, I wasn't allowed to do anything, I had to stay in the house. And of course Viola and the boys were busy, they were all going out to meetings or whatever. And this one day I was feeling really miserable being stuck in the bed, and it snowed. It wasn't even supposed to be snowing. And I was like, God knows how much I love the snow. And it was like, here you go, here's a present for you, just massive amount of snow. And so that the Lord just does stuff like that all the time for me when we're away. It's just so amazing. So then not long after that, when I was allowed to get up again, we went to this meeting, and again it was a new church, we'd never been there before, and our interpreter, and I got sick at the meeting. I was so embarrassed. I was shaking, I was running out to the toilet all the time, I was just absolutely humiliated, and they could see me shaking. This old building we're in was so cold, and so all the little old ladies are bringing me food and cups of tea and all this stuff, and Alexei's putting his jumper on me, and someone else I'm like, just leave me alone. So anyway, afterwards our interpreter came over, and she said to me, Carey, I just want to be like you. She said, you are such an amazing role model. And probably because I was feeling sick, I was a bit blunt with her, and I went, why? Why do you want to be like me? I'm sick all the time. I'm useless, you know. And she said, no. She said, you're always cheerful. You're always polite. You never complain, and you're great company. And she said, I just want to be like you. She said, you're an amazing person. And I'm like, it just humbled me so much. I went, oh, God, only you. You know, who could see that in me when I'm, you know, I just felt like I was a walking disaster. So then in 2018, we went to Lithuania. And Kathy and Wendy know this, but you don't. My mum was in respite. And Daniel rang me to say that Mum had a bad fall. By that time, we were back in Ukraine. She'd broken her hip really badly and a femur. And so Daniel rang me from the hospital. I had to give verbal permission for the surgery. And they said, don't rush home. And I said, okay. So 2 days later, on her birthday, Daniel rang me again. And he said, Mum's in ICU. Her blood pressure is pretty non-existent. They're having to give her a blood transfusion. And I just lost it. I said to Tom, I can't do this. We had 5 weeks to go before we were coming home. And I said, I just need to go home. I'm sorry. So we went back, told the guys we had to get to Poland by ourselves because we were doing ministry in Poland before we left. But Alex hadn't got his papers sorted, so we went up there by ourselves, had an absolute nightmare trip, but I won't go into that. And so we flew home, and it was really good because Mum wasn't getting out of bed, she wasn't even trying, and because we were home, she started rallying. It still took 3 months to get her home, and we were able to renovate her bathroom for her down there and all that sort of stuff, and you know, so it was good that we came home. But not what I wanted to hear. And so then last year, Tom went back and did that 5 weeks himself. And then, of course, we're going this year to Belarus and Ukraine again. So, just to finish up, we're all called by God to do incredible things. But as I found out with the first trip, unless you take the first step of faith and put legs on your dream, then that's all it will be, a dream. And, you know, it's like I was talking about the songs, you know, stepping out in faith. You know, unless you take that little step, it doesn't matter how shaky it is, it's, you know, it won't happen unless you take that step of faith. And then William Carey has a saying, many sayings, but this particular one is the one that we've made of our own. And it's, attempt great things for God, expect great things from God. And I believe that's the story of my life. Because, you know, I try and attempt and I expect him to hold up his end of the bargain.
Amen.
So, there you go.
Yep.